mean, that's all we do. That's great. They are there.
Third time?
Oh, yeah, those are good.
This one is connecting with the local law.
Good afternoon. Thanks for attending the scheduled meeting. I'm going to sit on this side, so it becomes more of a dialogue than it becomes like a council versus like the folks that put some more into this. The whole goal of this is to field questions, get comments, concerns, anything that you all have that has come up for you in your review of the local law, the changes to the charter, and then the overall sense of the city manager position in the proposal. So really wanted to just open it up to you all to field questions or comments, suggested changes to the documents. I know Councilor Avery has gone through and made some comments on the documents themselves. You can start there if you'd like, or any other thing to field from you all. But this is really mostly just a listening session for us to then review the document and then incorporate those changes and those concerns, or at the very least take some of those away and then address them more formally.
I'd like to start with, maybe the members could introduce themselves.
My name is Forrest Edwards. I'm a resident here of Plattsburgh, business owner.
What business you going for?
It's called No Tax. It's a county tax firm up further out through. And I own a property in your district as well.
I'm Kim Hartshorn. I'm retired from college. I was a professor of theater. And been active in Northeast Central labor. David Champagne. So we got from Pfizer for 34 years. Now I run TDC. Out of Prosper.
Ira Barbell sat in your seat at one time. But most of my background has been in management, government policy.
Courtney Meisenheimer also participated in some of these meetings. She can only here due to childcare, as you know, participated early on in the tax employee for first years as well.
You did make one comment, you said, this is giving us the opportunity to comment on this law and everything that was done and came up and stuff like that, but this is the first time we're seeing it, so, no. I mean, this is the first time we've seen the local law, so we can't really comment on changes or anything to. I don't even know what I'm saying. This is just the first time this has been given to us. So to be able to comment on it and stuff or the changes or anything seems impossible. That's just my comment.
Why don't you, how about a suggestion, start with, what do you think about the principle going to this format?
Who asked that question?
I do.
So I like the principle of it is fine.
Is there, I noticed that there's a breakdown for pay. Where the city manager gets, I think, 100 and, wait, average, I think, 114,000, something like that, and the mayor also gets paid, is that correct?
As a part
So
time,
it's two, so we're introducing another revenue stream and not minus,
would be as a part.
or not revenue, another expense.
Well, so those are some of the details I think that, you know, have this discussion is gonna help suss out. You know, one of the things I think, you know, we had a meeting with the mayor's, what's the mayor's group?
It's the International City County Management Association.
And the Plattsburgh falls right in the frame of a city that, is where a city manager's, scenario works well. Partially because, as a city, we have, a number of departments that smaller cities don't have. The fire department, police department, and municipal light department, water and sewer. With, employees and unions. And, and having an elected mayor with the expertise to deal with the management of a system at large is, can be hit and miss, right? Because there's no requirement to be an effective manager to run for mayor. So, larger cities than Plattsburgh have the advantage of having larger administrative departments where there's carryover from turn to turn without besides the elected mayor. And so this the real, I think personally I think the real advantage of going to a city manager position is that it takes the politics out of the management and it takes the politics out of the employee management relationship. And that can only, I think, make for a happier and more effective workforce, frankly, and potentially cost effective. So in
What would the cost effective, how would that make?
well, for instance, I think the city was hit with the large retro pay bill because previous mayors had not been able to settle collective bargaining agreements with several of the agencies, and that resulted in a large retro pay move responsibility on a fairly small budgetary year. So I don't know how it worked out. I know that on campus when we've gone a year or 2 years without a contract, that the CFO, our CFO, not other CFOs, but our CFO would put aside money based upon the expected negotiated rate, so that there was money in reserve to cover this. I'm not sure if that happened here or not, but I think that some of the contract, and one of the contracts is 9 years.
And so you feel like a city manager would be,
I think a city manager. So one of the, I think, when you are looking as a group, as a city, to fill a position as a manager, you would be looking for somebody with that skill set, which does not necessarily exist in elected mayor. Actually, probably rarely exists in elected. So there is, the proposal would move the mayor to a part-time position. That's okay.
so this has been tried before, right? So what's the difference between this?
No, I think as I understand it, it was up for, was on. You can correct me, so it was never implemented.
No, it wasn't implemented, but it
No,
went to a
referendum.
referendum and then it was.
I
So
thought the referendum passed.
what would the Is there any substantial difference between what's being put forward now and what was put forward?
Not significant,
I'm sorry, say,
not significant.
no, not significant.
No, I think more than anything, what we hear, or certainly what I hear, what other members of the community have heard, even elected as you all are talking to your, constituents, is a desire to reconsider it, or to at least put it up for vote, as a city manager form of government, because of some of these political reasons. Now, it's also in terms of the duplication of efforts, there is no duplication of efforts between the mayor and the city manager of this form of government. The lines of delineation between the two forms of government, or the two houses of government are pretty distinct at that point. Where the executive functions are managed primarily and solely by the city manager, and the legislative functions are managed solely by the mayor and council. With the mayor and council working closely with the administration to create policy, and put forth the political agenda.
So there's an aspect that I saw in there where they, when it came to, city departments, I think I remember there being something about, I totally whipped and did brains. But I thought, that I had taken notes on, but I remember there being a, oh, thank you, yeah, totally. So somebody else can go while I find.
Ignore my notes, please.
No. Totally read those out loud.
Well, that's up to you.
But somebody else can go, because I want to find this area. Sure, thinking of it correctly.
Well, I don't want to drill down too deeply on those things, because there are big things with me. Number one, I think this timeline is flawed to try to enact this in less than 2 months after the election, so referendum. This really needs to be stretched out a lot longer. This is way too short.
Hey, Councilmember, can I put some clarification in, as you made some notes, or do you want me to wait? Because we're not, but for this example, and I don't want to interrupt, but for this example, we're not saying a 2-month window for implementation. We're saying a 1 year and I think 3-month window for implementation. So it's in 2026, I believe, that's when it becomes implemented.
I didn't see that in the documentation, but the other thing I'm not gonna drill down on this either, because I have heartburn with a lot of the items, but there is way too much, in my opinion, authority placed on a diminished mayor position. I thought, veto power and doing all the appointments, he's basically going to be an enhanced counselor at this point. I thought there was way too much power given to the mayor position. I don't need an answer on that, it's just my opinion. Also, I wonder how civil service fits into this. That's going to be a new position. I'm sure civil service would have a manager position. Type of, I don't know if there'd be I would guess there would be some kind of test involved. Anyway, that would need to get cleared with that.
You mean for the manager or for the?
For management, yeah, but that's a new position, and we would need to have documentation for that.
Did we look in- I thought we looked into that.
That's accurate. It would be a testable position. It would need to qualify under civil service. Just like any department head would, that currently, staff in the city manager.
So does civil service then come up with the, qualifications?
Typically, yes, and then those could be changed by council, depending on what those qualifications are, and if there's any special qualifications that the city would need to create for the position you stated. But typically, there's a standard list of qualifications and not only the minimum job qualifications, and then the standard position you statement for what that person would be, or what their expected job.
I didn't have time to do a full review of this, but it looked to me like the counselor positions were further diminished in this new program. I didn't like the look of that.
And further dimension in what way?
That the mayor would still, actually be a go-between between the council and the manager. I thought the manager should be accessible to every councilor at any time. I don't see where and the department heads. I didn't see where that was, I know I'm pretty familiar with how the county does it. You know, you can go talk to anybody at any time, managers, whatever. This looked like very restrictive to me, just the way I looked at the language. I didn't have a lot of time to get into details, but didn't look good to me. Looked worse.
So I would say that, you know, that, actually, the only really. I hesitate to use the word controversial, but I think the major topic of discussion was not the city manager position, but was actually how the mayor position would evolve in this process. And, you know, I think that's one of the reasons they're having this discussion, because obviously, in order to get this working, we need to have, we have to have some kind of agreement, right? And I think that most of us are pretty much open to suggestions or ideas. You know, we're working, none of us, except maybe one of us, has been on the council, and so we're, you know, we're sort of amateurs at this ourselves. So I think one of the things that we felt was important in retaining a mayor position was for the advocacy and representation part of the city, that there, that the people of the city, I think, would appreciate electing essentially a spokesman for the city that represents the city in official government, statewide and even national positions, and works as the primary advocate or conduit for advocacy to the state, the county, and our legislators. And so so I think that's, for me anyway, that's one of the reasons why I think that we would want to stay with, why I would want to stay with an elected mayor, somebody identified as an elected mayor rather than an at-large council, which would be sort of the other end of it. And somewhere in the middle, I think is a good mix. What that mix is, I'm personally open to it.
Yeah, I see the mayor as more of an enhanced counselor versus a mayor. Okay, I think we gotta get away from that idea that there's going to be a mayor who has veto power. You know, only requires 3 votes for appointment. I think we've got to change the way we think on this. This is not going to be a mayor position that exists presently. Got to get away from that idea entirely. You know, the way the county does it, and there's many different ways of doing it. I kind of like the idea of just having a council, like the county does, you know, where they appoint somebody to run the meetings, be the face of the group and all that. You know, and I could get more specific as I get more into this, but I think there's a danger in making that position too much different than a council position.
So Jeff, who does the front facing the community then?
With the county, it's just, they vote somebody as the chairperson, and they are the face of the county.
So by de facto, they basically are the leader of the council. So that, when you say they vote somebody, how long is it, every week, is it yearly? How does that work? So that's Mark.
Yearly.
Yeah, they usually do it annually,
So Mark's the leader.
and they all get together and agree to that.
Do they have
I'm not saying that's the direction I'll.
Yeah, I'm trying to
head
say
on
that.
it. You wanna have a mayor, that's different, like, you can do that, but I'm just saying. We're giving him lots more powers than what I think should be given to a more ceremonial type.
the models that are out there are various in terms of.
Yeah, it's
Right.
wide open, yeah, whatever you wanna do, I'm just telling you my opinion on it.
You lean more toward less mayoral status involvement.
So it's an enhanced council.
So you would basically eliminate the mayor position and say, we're gonna have a 6-body council.
Or at large.
And then.
Well, that's one way of looking. At it. I mean, you could go in that direction. You could still have a mayor, but I hesitate to see the mayor as being a liaison between the council and the manager. The manager should answer directly to the council.
And sorry, because I think that the goal was to, ensure that, or certainly to clarify some of the council role and the mayor's role in the change, or this form of government. There's no, I don't think anybody talked about reducing the access to, council, but you're accurate in that, you know.
I saw that in the word, yeah.
Sorry,
I saw that in the.
what wording did you see?
You know, I didn't know if you were gonna be the ones that was asking the questions, but I didn't know my God.
Okay, no, I only asked because we want to make sure that you clarify it.
It is six.
I can't look
B.
it up right now.
Interference with administration, except for the purposes of inquiries and investigations under subsection C 3-9. The council or its members shall not deal with city officers and employees or subject to the direction and supervision of the city manager solely through the city manager, and neither the council nor its members shall give orders to any such officer or employee, either public or private. I think that's the section you're talking.
Yeah.
Okay, that section is no different than what the current charter says.
I'm not happy with the current. If
But
we're
it
gonna
would
do
replace
that,
the city
I wanna
manager.
see that disappear. I wanna see that disappear.
Well, even if it didn't disappear, to me, it sounds even more enhanced, even more. Because like right now, when I can send an email to a department, and as long as I CC you, you're up, or even include you, you're up for it. I'm not saying the new mayor will be up for that, but you are. So I'm happy with that. So is there some way to work that in? I don't know, but we have to be able to say, hey, you know, I'm not saying for special treatment. I'm just, what is going on right now works personally for me.
Can you clarify what is? Yeah, if I hear what you're saying, you want each of you to have authority to go to the manager and maybe the department head and dictate their job.
Not dictate, no, not dictate anything. But, you know, previously, when I was a counselor, I could go see any of the managers and I did. You know, just info, you know, when are you gonna start paying this area? You know, how's things going over at the department? That was good. It was good interaction and I really enjoyed that. Lately, I haven't had that ability to just go stop in anytime I want.
So
That's important. That's an important part.
So you don't have an issue with the mayor having authority to direct a position or to interface directly with a manager in this role?
I don't think it should be an intermediate. No, I do not. That's pretty important to me. I think you lose a lot of your ability to run the city in a proper way. You know, we vote on things that, you know, I would have a question. I used to go and see the Chamberlain quite often, you know, just ask them a few questions, because that's something, the money part of it, the big thing with me, I enjoy it.
But I think you don't want, I hope you're not saying this, that you want each of you to have the ability to go and direct the mayor.
No,
That'd be chaos. That'd be chaos.
What are you saying?
No.
Okay.
I
You just
The
want
information,
to- you just want to.
yes, that is completely wrong. I mean, thinking that the council should be able to direct any, no.
I've been
And
trying,
information, yes.
I've been trying
I
to,
know why I was laughing because.
no, I've been trying to dredge up the sentence that you're talking about. There was something in there and that said that the mayor would be the liaison between the council
Yeah.
and the city. There was a sentence like that in there, but I think is what you're getting at, that
Yeah, I wish
really
it was.
would not be comfortable for the council, in your opinion.
Right.
I think the key to any success of this city manager is going to be a close partnership with the council. They have to be working together policy, and moving all these things forward. So I think figuring out what that's going to look like is going to take a little bit of time on everybody's part to figure out how do we work together on this. He's not going to be doing your work and you're not going to be doing his, but you've got to figure out how you merge that together so that you're effective and what you're trying to accomplish on the city.
Yeah. I think you get it, what I'm trying to say.
So section 60 does say, except for the purpose of inquiries and investigations. And I think that the term interference with administration may be a little off-putting.
That's how the current charter reads.
Yeah, I know that's how, so I'm wondering if. But it doesn't seem to me like you are asking for anything beyond the line, except for the purpose of inquiries and investigations.
Yeah, the way that's been interpreted over the last.
So we're really talking about more precise and less ambiguous and less offensive language to 6B.
There should be absolute access to any department head at any time. So for example, you as a private citizen can call any department head right now and say, can I meet with you because I'd like to talk to you about X, Y, Z. And we cannot do that as counselors because currently, as the charter reads, our requests have to go through the mayor's office. We've argued what that means, what kind of access are we talking about? We argued about that with calling this mayor, we've argued about it here. We had a charter meeting in October of 2021 to argue about it. And I know, after doing this for 6 years, I can tell you it's incredibly frustrating. And you know, you've referenced the way that the county legislature operates. Those legislators can talk to any department head at any time. I don't have a problem with the language regarding not having the ability to direct employees. I think that is completely fair, but we do not have access to department heads without going through the mayor's office. And that in the past has been subject to the whim of the mayor. And it should not be that way. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yes, all you people sitting here have more access to the department heads than we as a council.
So
Somehow.
okay, so maybe you can help me out here. So we're looking at section 6B.
At this meeting, I don't want to drill down into too much.
Well, I guess what I'm asking.
I
I guess what I'm asking is that if it would be possible, that would help me, you know. If someone on the council might provide what might be acceptable language that replaces for 6G.
I would suggest you might want to take a look at the city's latest draft of charter for city government.
You guys are making this document, not us.
Well, I mean,
You're at this
you have a
question and
section-
answer section, but we're not making this document, it's being presented to us.
Well, I guess I don't see that.
Well, I
I don't
agree
really.
that you want, that you haven't had the information you want, you've already pointed out something that you think needs to be changed, not an issue.
This goes back fundamentally.
I think there's a piece in there that might be helpful if you look at that and what they're suggesting. And it's different from what used to be in their language. And see if that resonates with the issues that we have, or whether there needs to be something else.
Yeah, well, I think that's, you know, whenever you do charter changes, you know, I feel that we should be making some improvements, making things better. And I know you guys work hard on it. I'm not trying to second guess where your opinions are on these things, but you know, as having, you know, going on 12 years of municipal experience, I know there's a few things that should perhaps be reworded or corrected, because we're not going to be doing this every year or every other year. We want to encompass any of the things that have come up that were not smooth. So,
So I don't think that. Speaking,
and we're
for,
glad to give you,
speaking for the
I'd be
group,
glad to give you some of my opinions.
speaking for the group without being given permission to speak for the group. I'm not sure that any of us are really disagreeing with it. I think that, the intent of 6B in terms of the city manager is to protect the city manager from having 7 bosses. Right. And language that would, that I think it's important for the city manager not to have 7 bosses. I do think it's important for the city manager to be responsive to the council.
Yeah,
So there's
I need being clear, like, you need access to this person. This person is gonna have all the information about the city. To be able to garner that information is important.
So,
Okay, and, you know, nobody here, I haven't heard anybody say that they want to direct anybody to do anything.
no, I agree that.
They just want access.
It's like we
So-
have no access to anybody.
So
Just,
I don't think we're saying that you shouldn't have access. I think that we're just saying that the city manager to be effective needs to be able to function without looking over their shoulder at 7 different bosses. And for that matter,
Well,
the
we're getting off track.
and for that matter, possibly having to report to 7 different people.
We're not talking about that at all. If tomorrow I wanted to make an appointment to see Mike Zerlo, I could do that.
But what
I
if,
would not be directing him, I would be getting information.
well, what if 3 or 4 or 5 of the counselors were having a particular issue with a particular problem? And they were wanting to. I'm just saying this is as a potential, not that any of you would do this, but that. The city manager may be in a position or could be put into a position where they're spending most of their day responding to questions from the council. And which would impact their ability to be effective.
I can't
So-
imagine that happening.
Well,
Go ahead.
it could, and so that's the purpose of the language, right? So what we need is language that we can agree on, that satisfies your concerns, but also allows the city manager to function in an effective manner. And obviously, the language that's here doesn't do.
So why don't we move on to this point? We're gonna spend 20 minutes. We get your
Okay.
thing. You guys don't want to draft something, so we'll take a shot at redrafting it. And let's move forward with any other things you might.
I think it would be helpful, not necessarily asking you to pre-draft something, but. This kind of thing, if there's a piece in there that doesn't work for you, I don't get to see you, the only one on the council. If it's not, this doesn't feel right, I don't think this will work in the long term as a partnership with the city manager and the council. I'd love to have you send that, just jot a note now, something, here's this concern I have about this. That way we have something to go back and look at also and try to figure out, well, can we come up with something that might address any concerns that we have? That's, we can't do it without you finding the ones that really.
You're gonna own it, essentially. Yeah, we're gonna walk away. You guys are gonna live with this, knowing it. That I'd like to see through the red line on the top personally, but it's just like you guys.
What does that mean, red line on the document?
Pardon?
What does that mean, red line on the document?
So on a Word document, you can do edits, right? When you can track changes, so that's called,
Oh.
commonly referred to red line. So turn to
Okay.
red. So do track changes on the document and just, you can change it, you can put comments you want. Say, like he just said, I don't like this, doesn't work for me, it's too broad, it's too narrow, whatever, the zero us in on what the areas you're looking at and have concerns with, and we can try to rescope it.
I just want to throw it another comment, there are going to be 6 bosses here, with that city manager, that he is hired and by just sitting at the table. And so there's going to have to be a process to get to know each other, each of you with that city manager. Because that's going to be important to that individual, not essentially be your drinking buddy. That's essentially, but to know a little bit about you and your interests and where you fit into this, so that as you go forward, you're able to work more as a team than individuals. Coming together and debating with each other on issues.
I also think you're missing, I've never worked in city government, so I'm out of school here a little bit, I get that, but I would assume there'd be a monthly operation review with this group, where the manager would come in and go through, where are you with your costs and expenses, you know, what's the budget of your meeting, what you plan for. I've seen the mayor does that now, it's a format. Well, I would assume there'd be some costs like that, that you would have based on with this position.
And some of that would be in a performance program and in the documents under which the person is hired, and the contract in which the person is hired. You know, a mandated monthly meeting could be something that's in a contract that you create with the city manager.
Yeah, you'd have KPIs, right? So you have some KPIs on performance indicators.
Well, I mean, we usually get a department proposed, and that's usually the time.
Yeah, I mean, this whole change could change how you operate, right? There's things you could do that could enhance your accountability of what's occurring with this position. I don't know what Chris is thinking. Like I said, I worked in the public, but those kind of things I do.
Yeah, I don't see any difference between the city manager coming reporting their monthly report or their bi-weekly report, just like we do with every department head. Or we schedule the department to report on the first Thursday or the second Thursday of the month. Or the first and third Thursday, but no difference from, you know, again, like certain accounting providers as well. Much similar to that, where you do have an administrator that has 10 modules and however many wants to categorize it. But there is the opportunity for the city manager to come and report to council on whatever policy changes, implementation, operations, not much different than how it operates and how we operate.
But that would be real FaceTime with this individual where you could feedback, ask questions.
So
I'm sorry, it would be more in a more beneficial capacity for the city manager to be reporting these in this format rather than the one-on-one conversation that you may have with that person.
I just want to thank you all again for being here and doing the work on this. With that, sorry, sorry, awkward. And to your question at the start of the conversation, I'm fully in favor. I think I've been the most vocal in public for this model. How we get there, I have concerns about in next steps, of course, as we all do as we're having this conversation. I think my first question to you all, ultimately, we're saying it's very similar to 2015. What the original proposal was, we're in halfway through June. The big reason why 2015 failed is an education campaign. Where are we at with that? I'm very concerned about us getting buy-in on this. We're 7 days, I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, when the document came to us. Give me a little 30,000 foot view of what took so long to get to this spot, why it took so long, and what are the next steps to obviously convince us, which I'm concerned by, I will own that publicly, but also convince the public, which obviously was the biggest failure in 2015. So if someone could comment on that, I appreciate that. Or not.
Well, can I bring that just a little bit, you know, I had a question about that too, but this probably doesn't go right to this committee. But you know, we're gonna have a new mayor in a few months. And you know, I kind of feel like they should have had a little input into this, whoever does end up being mayor, like we're gonna pass all this stuff and then we're gonna say these people ran as, you know, for a mayor position that may not exist, you know, the day after their election or whatever.
Yeah.
Because that would, I thought that was made everything kind of a little bit rushed to all of us, because they're running as mayor of the city of Plattsburgh. And we're asking people to say, but that's not really what you ran for. It's gonna be something entirely different.
I would agree.
I don't know, it's
Yeah,
out there, and I'm kind of confused about how this is gonna play out.
I know we had again, I know we went back and forth pretty good in March on that, because that was my biggest concern on this before I left the committee. I agree with Jeff, we got people running, there's that concern, absolutely. But I'm very concerned we're June 17th and the next steps for that.
So the timeline for the Board of Elections needs the final approval for referendum, like for council, around the 1st of August. So we've got between now and the 1st of August to have a vote on whether or not to put it on as referendum. One of the, and I can speak just to what my comments were in public, from the beginning of the year, which was in support of the city manager, as well as making those comments before anybody announced their intention to run for mayor. So I tried to make it clear that this was something that we were going to advocate for. Again, whether or not the council would support putting on as a referendum would be entirely to the council. But at the end of the day, any mayoral candidate coming into the race, it was made clear that this was something that would have been advocated for the next round or for the next administration coming in. We didn't make many changes to the mayor in the terms of like removing the mayor and having it be a council voted position, or having it be an at-large councillor, and then the council votes on a position of mayor, much like other communities do that. They vote on the position of mayor, and a member of the council becomes the mayor essentially, by name, much like we have a mayor pro tem. But the mayor would inherit all of the responsibilities and duties as per the charter, or as outlined by the charter. In terms of the educational campaign, I can only think back to 2015, 2016, where it did seem like it was more of an after the fact, or an afterthought of when to start promoting this, which did not happen until much later in the cycle, rather than having it start in August and having a solid 3 months of trying to educate folks in terms of what that form of government and what those changes would mean for the city budget. So understandably, yes, there's people that are running for mayor right now, but hopefully, when they came on, go back and read comments, public comments of them being aware that this is a potential change, and they were running, knowing that this could be a potential change to this position.
One of the possibilities was that implementation date could be a no later than. And leave it to the mayor and the council to set the implementation date before that. If that came around, so that the no later date could be so that would involve a search for a city manager that would be in place no later than the next round of elections, for instance, the mayor, or something along.
Yeah, I like that better, and I would have deferred to Dave on this, because he knows exactly all about this, because he's identified many people. Where and why that play. I mean, I'm a little more familiar with that. You have to get the right guy to come along. I shouldn't say that, person, and that isn't something that you should be able to say, by May of next year, we're gonna have identified the perfect person. And sometimes the perfect person doesn't come along right away, but you definitely want to have, if you're talking about signing somebody up for 5 years, you want to be pretty sure that person is going to be the best person available to you. And that's one thing I got to say about Goliath. I mean, I was working with top flight people all the time. Your job is so much easier when you have the right person. I hate to see where you say, well, a year from now or 6 months from now, we're gonna have that person, and maybe you do. I'm not saying it should take a long time, but I know there's a lot of people out there that do manager type positions. And I talked to the Saranac Lake just got a new village manager. I talked with that guy quite a bit, and he seemed like a really top point guy, and hopefully we would be able to snag somebody like that that's going to fit in and do a good job. And it could be easy, it could not be easy. I know Dave, I would have to defer to him on you know, how easily these people get identified, but, you know, sometimes it takes a little while.
It's tough to get people, you gotta look at the skill set, the pay benefits, you know, to civil service, positions, complicates it a little bit. You know, we did consider saying, let's let this first cycle, this next 4-year cycle go by, put this in place and do it, implement it after that. We decided was leaving it on the table way too long. I do like your idea of doing no later than they give it time, because to find the right person for this role, I think you're talking 6 to 12 months to get it right.
I know I mentioned this in the committee meeting, but I won't say it publicly, I guess, because I'm fully in favor of that. I think we went back and forth of having it January 1st, 2020, someone help me out, 2029, I think it is, and having it, so maybe the mayor coming in. Yep, absolutely, I want this gone, or I want to start searching for this immediately, 6 months to figure it out, leave up the next mayor. So again, I've spoken to the candidates for mayor on this in various communications and recognizing they know it's coming, but they don't know what is coming. Because coming in as a full time, coming in versus a half time to a quarter time are very different lifestyles. And I wouldn't want to do it to any of the mayors, and we don't have a plan right now. Yes, we have a conversation up there, what we're looking at, we haven't decided that yet. So that's would be disheartening for me if I was looking for mayor. So I want to reiterate that publicly of what I said in the committee. Was I think it should be up until day of January 1st, 2029, please something can help me 4 years from January. Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty quick that.
Well, you know, I agree with you 100%, Jacob, but, you know, if one of the incoming mayors thought they could effect this more quickly, I would be all for that. But that, I don't know, I hate to be making a decision like that for them. You know, they are running, you know, you say, well, they might have some kind of idea this is happening, but.
If I think the no later,
Well, yeah, but there's gonna be a new mayor coming in, and they are gonna be then part of this group delivering. I believe, I don't know, I'm not saying I have a hard and fast idea there, but I do think it's a consideration that we all have to think about.
Yeah, it's definitely, ideally, 2 years ago would have been great. They would hold this thing off then, right? If everyone agrees this is a good way to go, we like the idea of the manager mayor concept, there's value to it. You know, if we'd done it a couple of years ago, it probably would have been better, but we are where we are. So either make the decision to pull the trigger and move forward with it, or you say, yeah, we like it, we're gonna pause it for the next round.
Somebody on the committee give me the elevator pitch of what is the job of the mayor, and then follow up, what is the job of the city manager of your proposal?
The function of the mayor is as per the charter of the chief executive officer, hiring, appointments, financial management, just the day-to-day operations of the organization. The function of the mayor, although it is also political, kind of blurs the line between the executive function and the legislative function of that office. Meaning where normal forms of government or normal branches of government are distinct, this one is not. There's strong mayors throughout, strong mayor form of government is not, does not allow for that line of delineation, because you do have a mayor that is the presiding officer of the legislative body, the chairperson of the council, but they're also the chief executive officer. So there's a collapsing of the political arm and the executive arm of this form of government. Essentially what this manager / council form of government does, it makes those two branches of government this, where you have a manager who's managing the executive functions of the organization, and then you have a mayor presiding over the legislative body, creating policy, and focus more strongly focus on that portion of the political part, or the policy part of where the charter outlines the council's role, which is creating policy, financial or fiduciary responsibilities, and the like. So essentially what you do is you separate that out, again, keeping the executive function separate from the legislative body, and the legislative body separate from the executive function. That means then the redefinition or the enhancement of the mayoral role comes into play, which is, again, the presiding officer on the board, working with council to create policy or to figure out how that policy is developed and then executed or passed, and then handed off to the city manager for implementation. Then you also have the mayor that is really the political liaison between the community at large and then all of the other regional and state and federal political bodies that exist. Much like the mayor position now, but it then becomes the state and the mayor can focus on those types of relationships. Includes vision for the city, economic development and growth, community attractiveness. There's some ceremonial aspects to that person's role and function in terms of, giving proclamations and keys to the city or anything like this. I think the pitfall in having part of this conversation is saying, well, you go from a strong mayor to a weak mayor, which is not necessarily the case. What you're just doing is you're just distinguishing the role of the legislative body versus the executive body in this split. That doesn't diminish the function or the importance of the mayor, it just redefines that person's role. If anything, it enhances their ability to create that type of policy separate from trying to then also implement policy. So
I can give you my sense from a theatrical point of view. So that if you have someone who's running for the position of mayor, that involves vision and identity. So from my point of view, I think that the people of the city enjoy voting for somebody who's running on vision and running as the identity of the city. If what we're voting for in essence is an at-large counselor, then it doesn't really happen. I don't know that you need it.
I never suggested that. I mean,
I don't know
I'm
that you need it.
bringing that up as an alternative. I am not saying that we need to go in that direction.
Yeah.
So, Dave is correct. Let's get away from that. We like where this thing is headed.
Yeah.
And we are not looking at, going to it, throwing everything that has been done up to this point
Mhm.
out and going in a different direction. We're not, no, it's not an argument.
So getting away from that, are there, I can't remember, are there rules in there for, like, say the person quits or something happens to them and they're no longer able to continue with their duties?
Yeah.
Is there?
The
stuff-
city manager, the city
Yes,
manager.
Yes.
there are. There's caveats to temporarily appoint the mayor or a member of the council, or to temporarily appoint that position with a senior department head or somebody in the interim until that position is filled.
And there are, so there's associations of city managers, right? So, on campus, when we lose a provost, we hire substitute provost from, so they're out there. Search firms will provide you with or if there's somebody competent, within the city that they feel comfortable appointing, but it basically would be the council's.
And that's I think it's critical to make that point clear, is that this is a council position. The council does the interviewing, there's some stipulation on who should be part of that interview, or recommendations on who should be part of that interview. But the council does the hiring, the council does the negotiation, and the termination of this position.
I want to just comment on this last discussion we just had, mayor and city manager. Realizing that the mayoral position eventually here is a $25,000 position, something. Almost a part-time position. And the city manager. So there's the mayoral position is not going to be a position that's going to come in and establish policy, I think, for the city manager. He may participate with the council in developing policy issues and be of assistance. But, I'd be careful how we articulate this, I think, because, Rod Sherman's over here, who was on the last effort to kind of move in this direction, said it much better than I can say it. We have a lot of people in this community that are, willing to give their time as volunteers, get retired individuals that have tremendous expertise. This mayoral position can be a great position for people to step into. They don't need a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 salary. And they can come in and bring a different set of ideas and stuff to the council as well. And thinking about this is a little bit different. I don't know about even, that wanting to run a citywide campaign, to walk in here and have a part-time position that doesn't pay very much. Maybe that works if you have enough retirement income, you don't really need the income from the 25,000. But be aware that there's a big difference between those two positions. The city manager is the one who is essentially responsible along with the council for guiding the city forward. It's not going to be the mayor. And the mayor can reach out to constituencies that they might have in the city and bring them to the council in an interesting way. And so there are interesting ideas about how the mayor's position would work.
The mayor seems to be more like a CEO or chief operating officer. And the mayor is kind of a pseudo CEO, like you were describing, setting a vision. We want to work with the council to figure out what we want to do, what we want to operate, what we want to look like as a city. Yeah.
Did you get an answer to your question about messaging rollout, getting community back?
I didn't, I don't feel like I got the, with that being said too, whose responsibility do you see that as? Is it gonna be your responsibility to roll this out? Is it gonna be ours, someone that's not in this room? I think I know where the answer is going to be. But what is the timeline for this next, in your eyes, and actively?
Yeah, sorry, so August is the time when it needs to be approved for the board elections. Again, if it's approved, then there is a campaign for education. It would most likely be members of this group or people in the community that would support this strategy. I wouldn't imagine that unless members of the council also support it, I wouldn't imagine that we would be looking at the council to advocate and, to push this. If anything, one way, regardless of where you land on it, I think the role of the council is to say, okay, well, this is something to consider, and let's put it to the population to vote on. And let them make the decision.
I would say, I think you guys need to advocate what, if that's why I asked in the beginning, are you for this or not? If you're not for it, then why?
I would agree with that.
I think you need to be advocates for it, if we're gonna do it. Talking about it too, not just us. I don't live in the city, I have nothing to stake here. So you guys are gonna live with this, not us.
So let's follow up to that from this conversation, maybe so. Are we meeting with you all again as the plan, and we should get an update from this conversation? Are we?
Yeah, that's the ideal.
Moving forward.
Yeah, sure, certainly, that's the ideal, is that, we have, I think we have 6 weeks between now and the 1st of August. The idea is, as we develop this conversation, I've taken notes, we sent this out about a week ago, to review for this meeting, and so, good notes already, and I know that you made comments on the document. Certainly encourage people to come into the document, make some comments or notes in the document as well. But we'll come back with answers to some of these questions, clarifications to what folks have asked already, and then come back and revisit the conversation to revise the document based on these notes and then notes to follow, and then have further conversation to then make a determination on how to vote.
So, if this is going to be a local law introduced July 3rd, we don't really have 6 weeks
It's
because.
not July 3rd, we would have to introduce it on July 3rd or the 18th, but most likely it would be mostly on the 18th, and then look for the 1st of August for approval. So I think it's August 7th or August 8th that the board of election meets.
So your all email addresses were on the correspondence, right? So when we redline it, we can just send it back up to.
You can just edit the document, to be honest. You can either edit the document or make comments on the document.
Yeah.
So it's all there, it's all shared, everybody sees the comments.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
Okay, so you're looking to introduce this as a local law in the last meeting in July, then?
Yeah. And then we have a meeting on the 1st of August, then I'll review the timeline with the board of election. But it presses up against that, I think it's like the first week, it's like August, I think, August 7th or August 8th. I'll read it.
Something? Not a comment, but when does this become a public document, so public can see it?
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, it can be made public now. So it can be made public now. This is already, like, this is already public when the charter commission put forward. Again, not many changes have been made, more clarifications. Yeah, more clarifications than anything else, but it's already public. And we can send it out again. Yeah.
Where is it located as a public document now?
I don't know where it's located as a public document now. This was shared some years ago. But-
No, this one that you're working on right now, when's the public going to be able to see this document that you're working?
Never. I don't see any reason not to.
We make it public immediately, and with that, could we ask that there's some kind of, not so much, yeah, message for an advertising campaign, could it be on social media, could we send an email? Maybe in reports there, I say, but make it really advertise this is public, so we start getting input on this before we come in and sure. Sooner than later,
Just gonna make it better.
but give a link of where to comment, people have comments, you come talk to your counselor. Yeah, people should be able to comment in some way, or not.
You know,
Just make it a PDF.
Yeah. There was a public outreach effort to gather comments, which I believe were also included in that document that we shared.
yeah, this one needs. Yeah.
Definitely, as much as we can. Potentially plan for an update late next week. I'm sorry to push the deadline, but I feel like pressure on the deadline on this.
Yeah.
From you all.
Yeah, I'll send out another calendar invite for the council to meet. It looks like the 1st of July. Which is a Monday. It's 2 weeks from today. So we'll send out a council invite to meet on that day. And then continue the conversation from today. You all want to go back and look through the document, make notes or comments. And then ideally, if you get to those comments before the 1st, to make some changes or address those before that 1st. And then additional questions or comments during that meeting can then be included before the 18th, and then that's when the local law will be introduced for public hearing for the 1st. And again, I'll reconfirm that time moving forward for election.
We do this a lot.
It's all new to me.
No,
So.
we do it a lot.
Right. I was just doing something
What?
else.
That's been a good conversation.
Yeah.
Great, big blank on things.
No, it's good feedback. I do think that, I mean, the concept itself, I think will prove to be cost effective. And I think the benefit in taking politics out of the manager.
This is gonna be political no matter what. That job's gonna be political no matter what.
Oh, God.
Well, but it won't,
Always be.
it won't be, it will take a lot of the politics out of the employee management
Maybe,
relations.
So what you're gonna get there is you get a professional manager.
right,
That's what you're trying to do here.
right.
You should get better efficiencies.
Yeah,
And,
but that person's gonna get pushed.
Yeah, it's politics and everything.
oh, they're gonna be pushing the full, but there's also gonna be consistency. I mean, there's a tendency, if you're in a contract negotiation with an elected person, to wait them out, right? Or on the other hand, if you're the elected person, there's a tendency to let the next guy take care of it, right? So I think having the consistency in management, there, I think it'd be a huge benefit.
Well, no, I agree. I think it would be. It's just, you know, can't fool ourselves into thinking that there's not.
Well, there's still,
There's not gonna be
there's
a
always
problem.
management
It's always gonna
employees,
be-
that's part of the job, right?
Well, and to your own point, contract that's 5 years long. I know I've got 10 more years. Just wait that for some.
Well, but that contract, so, but that contract's between the manager and the council, not between the manager and the employee. Right, so, so those contracts are removable, probably in the contract, there's, you know, when you start looking at the details of their, how you're gonna write the contract, you probably wanna have, you know, some sort of guarantees in terms of renewals, you know, when the renewal process starts, the contract might be 5 years long, but the renewal process starts in year 4.
Do you
So,
have a model personal service contract that you're looking at right now? So that it would be something that is enshrined in this, or what's the pathway forward for something like that?
that's a good question.
Yeah, we typically do that separate. I don't think we would enshrine it into the charter documentation. It would be a separate contract that was developed with legal counsel and council.
Your contract law. We got it there.
But I think, you know, the details in the contract are important, and probably ultimately more important than local law when it comes right down to it, right? The, you know, the conditions under which person is hired or let go, and you know, guarantees for renewals, when renewals happen, what kind of, you know, what kind of performance reviews they're gonna require. You know, there's a lot of things to put in the contract that are ultimately gonna be more responsible for the success of the position than the local law itself.
So is this totally a brand new one that you guys wrote? This is from 2015,
Most of it is.
and the rest of it, I mean, you guys.
We made some comments and comments based on just bringing things up to speed. Councilor Moore's point is exact, is that there was a major charter change done 2015, 2016, but no follow-up to refine those changes. So part of it is looking at some of those changes that were made, refining them, but bringing them up to speed in 2024. Also working with folks down at that international consortium of city managers and just really looking at what is the more industry standard for these types of changes and role of the council, mayor, and city manager. And, you know, just again, refining what those roles are defined. But the lion's share of the work was already done, based on the work that was done in the charter division.
Yeah, that's the only thing that draws me to a little bit of pause. It was voted down by a pretty wide margin
Why was it voted down?
the last time it came.
Why
up.
was it voted down? Rob, why was it voted down?
It was like a 35% vote for it. We didn't put on it, but again,
I can tell you why.
I was rather good meetings.
I'm sorry?
The public. We had people come in from the state, city managers, group, city and county managers, group, all sorts of things, but. No, but public engagement was not. What it should have been, so I hope we're gonna allow public engagement on this one.
Seems like no is easier. No is easier to vote than yes. Because you have to know what you're voting about to vote yes. And if you don't know a lot about it, then no is the default.
That's why I voted no, but basically because I didn't really know anything about it until I read it on the back of the ballot, and I frankly, I kind of like the idea of having a mayor of the city. I mean, it's just the idea of having a mayor.
Who's directly accountable to.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to know. Frankly, I didn't really know anything about it before I read it on the ballot.
Well, to be fair, there was a mayor involved in the other vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't taken out. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, we've heard anecdotal, information on why it failed and why it wasn't supported. I remember lawn signs going up like late October supporting city manager. So, whether it was you all or not, there was just not a lot of public outreach and public campaign to educate people on what they were voting. That was my experience. And then politically, I don't know if there was a lot of support from the political players at the time, to advocate for a change.
Do you remember offhand that local law at the time of the ballot, used the term weak mayor?
Yeah.
What's that? Makes some changes.
It was framed that way. I don't think it was in the group.
Don't think it was.
What was that?
I'm trying to remember that. If
That was in the paper. That was something.
it was in the paper, framed it as weak mayor. Yeah, I was wondering if that was in.
Ceremonial.
Yeah, and again, we wanted to make it clear that this is not a diminishing of the mayoral responsibilities where it comes to that person's function solely within the legislative body. It does take the executive management pieces off of their plate in favor of somebody who might ideally has the experience and education to affect a $67 million organization. Rather than leaving it to a voted option.
Yeah, I do think that this, how we frame that question is important, because I do think that people frankly like having them. I mean, the county doesn't work that way, but nobody's ever thought of the mayor of the county, right? Nobody has ever actually identified a leader of a county as something that was important to their identity of place. But I think people identify the mayor of their city as something that's important to their identity of place. And so I think it is important how we characterize that role of mayor and not diminish it in its ambience, I want to say.
Well, it's like.
It's the role will change,
Right.
but
And to pay
end of day,
a lot,
yeah,
$25,000 a year to do all that.
yeah. Well,
But that's.
the all that,
That's part of the dialogue here
yeah,
as well.
the all that is. And the pay too, frankly,
Is that standard?
25, right?
I mean, 2.5 times what the council gets paid, is that a standard rate?
I think it was
Mayor.
just it's just a staff.
No, so is there,
So again, original language,
Is it?
yeah, that was original language and, as again, it's part of the dialogue
oh, I see.
of saying, look, if that's not, like we certainly looked at comparable pays for city manager for a municipality of our size. And 120 fits right in that range, that's already listed, right? But again, without trying to diminish the role of the mayor, the function and focus shifts away from the executive function, but more into the political legislative function, which holds significant importance in the future, where we go, how the council interacts, policies that are created, That's a third of what the mayor current, maybe a little less than a third of what the current mayor's salary is. So it really is just like, if the function of the mayor's role is more significant, or you see it more significant, or you see it as something that should be, compensated differently, that is part of the dialogue.
Yeah, you just want to be able to encourage people. I guess money isn't the thing that's gonna encourage people, I suppose, but that is an aspect of it,
Always been big things.
I mean. I wouldn't. Not for $25. No way. But I mean, you know, if that, is there? There would have to be. Did you guys look to see what was comparable for other mayors of the size of the city? I know you looked at the manager, but did you look?
Yeah, it's on that one,
It is.
is it on the pay scale?
Same, yeah,
There's a
same.
thing on,
Same.
it's,
What, if I can ask, what's in the? What are the budget lines for the mayor now besides, besides pay? So, right, you know, I'm fringe benefits, travel, you know, supported travel, all sorts of things.
Well, there's no travel that's
you want us to
included.
list them?
Hmm?
You want us to list them? What they're.
Well, no, I mean, so, so that there are other aspects to being mayor, right? So if the mayor is still functioning as a political actor, and he's going to conferences, he's going down to Albany, you know, those things would continue to be supported, I would assume. You know, so there must be. Travel, there must be some, you know, must be some mayor expense lines.
Right.
So what I would just, this is a personal story, right? You know, so I've been retired from college, you know, for 3 years, but I've been remained active in the union, especially on the advocacy side, you know. And, you know, the AFL-CIO, I ran the Labor Council, and I'm pretty busy, and I do travel, and I wouldn't be able to do it if I wasn't getting reimbursed for the travel. Right. But I enjoy the advocacy. And so I could imagine that a mayor with those responsibilities, but with less salary, could still enjoy being actively involved in the advocacy and vision of the city, that they were being supported in those roles, maybe not the salary.
You'd have to do that, or you just cut.
Yeah, there's no point in having them here. They're not gonna do this.
So, right. We have that now, so we have expense accounts. Chris, you travel with me.
Yeah, there's the pay as outlined by the charter and the built-in benefits. The other pieces in terms of like travel and reimbursement for travel is all passed through council, so it's not included in it's budgeted, but it's not automatically inherent to. It does go to council for. Yeah, but it is budgeted. Typically, I don't think. I've never asked to travel to a conference and then been denied, so. Yeah. And then there's also budgeted items for council to attend conference as well.
I got it. Is there any?
Your number
Off
one.
the table.
Look at you, just go down the bottom. That's it. So-
We're at.
Well, it's one of the.
That's good.
That's the things I'd like to send back to you guys, so why don't we, get back, later, sooner.
2 weeks is 2 weeks sufficient, you want it sooner? I'm good with that. 2 weeks.
You're good.
All right, 2 weeks from today, the 1st of July. Yeah, the documents were shared, we'll post them publicly and then start to get a survey together. Ideally get some of that, collecting some of those comments before the 1st, we share those. But again, those documents are available to you right now, and comments on them, you will, or, as you do review them, if you need help making on this or don't understand anything, just let us know. Facility, that's. Cool.
Will our comments be visible to the public?
None of the documents are shared with PDF, but they'll be visible to everybody who needs to share the document. Ideally, the comments are made to incorporate back into changes into the document.
Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time.